Okay, today we're going to talk about how does smooth speech sound? What does it sound like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? We're going to talk about two major characteristics of smooth speech. One is what we call, let's take a look at this, something that we call rhythm. One major characteristic of smooth speech is something we call rhythm. A second major characteristic is something that we call flow. Okay? Rhythm and flow. Let's talk about rhythm. When we say rhythm, speaking with a rhythm, we're technically talking about speaking with a cadence, right? Speaking with a cadence. So when I was in the military, we used to have to call cadences when we were marching or running. Your left, your left, your left, right, left. So that's a cadence. So it's something that has a regular pattern that keeps everyone in step, a cadence, right? So our speech has a cadence, but it just sounds so much better when we say that a person speaks with a rhythm. When we think about rhythm, what we're talking about is something that kind of has a melody to it, something that you want to follow, something that you want to listen to. So when you're speaking, you want to speak in a way that people want to follow what you're saying. They want to listen to you. They like listening to the sound and the style of your voice. We'll get into some more specific characteristics of rhythm in just a moment. A second characteristic that we talked about is flow. So the best way to describe flow is to describe it in terms of what it's not. So when someone is not speaking with a flow, it means they are speaking in a choppy manner. They are starting and stopping and repeating themselves and speaking too fast and cutting off their words, right? So when someone's speaking that way, where they're starting and stopping, they're cutting off their words, they're not finishing what they're saying, then we would say that person doesn't have a great flow, right? There's not flowing. So rhythm and flow, and certainly those are very, very closely related. And when you're speaking with a rhythm, you also have a flow. So we're going to focus more on this idea of rhythm. What are some specific characteristics of rhythm? Well, one is that when you speak with a rhythm, your speech has momentum, it has power, it has energy, okay? So speaking with a rhythm, much like an ocean wave, it has power, it crests, it comes up and it comes down, and it goes up and it goes down, right? So it has this kind of a flow to it, a natural flow. It has momentum, it has energy, it has power. A second characteristic of rhythm is what we call voice inflection. I've seen technical job descriptions, that is, job descriptions for people in technical roles like software engineers, require that you be able to speak with what? With voice inflection. So when you speak with voice inflection, it means, in fact, I'll just show you what a voice inflection might look like. If you can just look over here, what we see is what we would call wave patterns. So what we would call a wave pattern. So notice how when I inflected up, the line went up, the curve went up. When I came down, the curve went down. I could be in the I could be high, I could be medium, I could be low. Okay, so that's an example of a voice inflection, where you're modulating your voice up and down. It's another characteristic of rhythmic speech. Well, what's another characteristic? Well, another one is when you're able to emphasize certain words. Emphasizing is like highlighting. You're highlighting certain words like I just did. You're highlighting. So what did I do when I emphasized the word highlight? Well, I extended the word a little. I stretched the word out a little. I inflected on the word. I also articulated that word, or over-articulated. So those are some examples of rhythmic speech and speech that has a flow. So if you notice, I wasn't starting and stopping. I was maintaining constant air, a constant rhythm, a constant flow while I was speaking. Rhythm and flow. Here's your assignment. I want you to write down some other characteristics in your own words, how you feel when you listen to me speak. What are some of the characteristics of my speech? How did you feel while listening to me? And then write down how your own speech sounds. What are some of the characteristics of your speech? So we talked about rhythm and flow as being two characteristics of smooth speech.